What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Blood on the Razor Wire TV, where we bring it to you real and we bring it to you raw. Got a brother on, did a bunch of time, got a hell of a story, but you know what? He can tell his story, as I always say, better than I can. Tell the people who you are, where you're from, and let's talk about you.
My name's Kid. I didn't go by that in there, but those who know me know my name. I just don't like I left that person behind when I walked out, and I would rather not bring that person back to life ever again. You know, as a person that I created in order to make it in that world, and I'm no longer a part of that world. Not just prison, but the criminal world, you know? So if I were to tell you my whole life story, we'd be here for years. So, you know, try to find a way to get the highlights of things of why I went to prison. Everything stemmed behind drug use, you know, which started when I was a little kid. You know, started smoking weed probably 7, 8 years old, and really started getting into that criminal lifestyle and drugs when I was 12 years old. I didn't, and the thing is, my parents were not, I didn't have, it was the life that I chose. It wasn't like forced upon me. Like some people grew up in poverty and grew up around gangs and stuff like that. I didn't grow up in my neighborhood wasn't like that. The people I hung around were not really like that. And I was, you know, this is the early 80s, early mid 80s. Everybody was like rockers and skinheads and punk rock. And that was the hardcore scene was what was going, well, like what was popular at that time. So that's what I was around, and that's what I grew up with. I didn't go to prison until I was 24.
Let me ask you this, right? Tell the people where you grew up at.
I grew up in Albuquerque.
Albuquerque, New Mexico. What's your nationality, brother?
I'm white, but all my friends were Mexican. So I grew up thinking I was Mexican because that's all I was ever around.
And what was your life like growing up, though? You said you didn't really go to prison until you were 24. You started out at 12. You were smoking a little weed, doing whatever you were doing. But then it progresses, and you end up with a boatload of time, as we say, right?
Yeah, and I should have ended up with a lot more than what I ended up getting. So I really lucked out, and I'm really lucky to have another chance at this.
Let me ask you this. Did you ever go to state prison before the feds, or was it straight to the feds?
My first prison was federal. First prison I went to was USP Leavenworth in 1998.
Let's talk about that for a minute. What leads you to Leavenworth, and how much time do you get sentenced to?
I got sentenced to 41 months for a bank robbery with a note.
So you get 41 months. You go to USP Leavenworth. What's it like for you?
It was I mean, to explain it for somebody who's never been in that world, there's no way to you would have to see it, you know. But it was real, that's for sure. It was a USP. It was a penitentiary. It wasn't a, you know, it later on turned into an FCI and a medium, but at this time this was one of the original USPs, and it was notorious. You know, when I found out I was going to Leavenworth, I was shocked. I thought I was going to go to an FCI. Everybody that I was in county with this stuff told me, oh, you're going to go to FCI. You're going to go to FCI. You only got 41 months. That's only 3.5 years. So when I found out I was designated to USP Leavenworth, I was like, whoa.
You know, we're going to jump ahead for a second, but, you know, you get that 41 months, but you end up with a lot more time than that later on down the road, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So let's talk about Leavenworth first. You know, you walk in there. How old are you?
I was 24.
You're 24 years old when you actually walk into the prison. And you're a white dude. You grew up around a bunch of Mexicans. You know, who becomes your car? Who do you end up running with?
Well, being that I'm from New Mexico, we have a car that's really small in the feds. So my older homies had created an alliance with the California Mexicans from the south.
So they created an alliance, but you know, you're in Leavenworth, pretty violent back then. What are some of the things that you see in Leavenworth that shock you?
Um, the probably the I only saw like a couple of things with my own eyes, like that. But it wasn't really shocking. By the time that this had happened, I was used to that, hearing all the stories. And then, I mean, the first time I saw a stabbing was a trip because that prison, there's it's got stairwells that it's like the cell blocks are old school. It's an old prison, so there's some blind spots in there, you know, and usually where things happen in those blind spots, you know. So I was going to chow one time to dinner, and there was this Asian kid was coming. He was standing on I lived on the top floor of that unit was A3. There's 3 units in a cell house. It was A1, 2, and 3. So this Asian dude lived on A2, and I was on A3. So I'm going to chow, and he acknowledged me when I came down the stairs, and he's like, "Hey, what's up?" You know, and "What's up, kid?" And "Hey, what's up?" And I was you know, I'm walking down the stairs fast because it's, you know, everybody's going to chow, and you know how people go to chow. It's like a cattle call, you know.
Yeah.
And we're going down the stairs. Everyone's racing down the stairs. Other people are going upstairs. It's like a big old, you know, clusterfuck, for lack of a better word. And when I pass him, he says, "Hey, let me holler at you for a second." So I turned around because I thought he was talking to me. And when I turned around, and I was like 2 feet away from him, and I saw he had a half of a pair of scissors in his hand. And if you could picture a big pair of scissors like that big, you know, just one side, and he started swinging it. I had to jump back because I thought he was talking to me, and he was stabbing some white dude.
Was the white dude was the white dude fighting back?
I don't know. I didn't stick around to find out. I got as far away as I could, as quick as I could, and so that was, that was the first thing I ever saw in prison. And it shocked me because I didn't expect it. I didn't, and then stuff like that happens a lot, but it's a big place, man. So you don't always see all those things, but then you hear about them. And at that time, they didn't even lock down for that. Now in these days, with something between 2 other races, they would have locked the whole prison down. But being that I guess they probably found out. They probably didn't find out for, I think it was about 20, 30 minutes. And I think the white guy went and turned himself in because he was probably just stuck pretty good, and he was scared he might die or something, but it was, what it all was over was, I really don't know. I know the story I heard is they got into an argument while they were both drunk, and I think the Asian guy was in the wrong, and he really disrespected that white dude. And after he sobered up, he was scared. I think he was scared that white kid was going to hit him, so he wanted to get him first.
Let me ask you this, right? You're a white dude growing up in New Mexico. You end up in prison. Do the Mexicans accept you over there, or are they kind of like, he's a weirdo fool? I mean, how do they act?
No, they accepted me. They because of just where I came from, the way I carried myself, and I mean they accepted me with open arms. And place like that, I mean, maybe if it would have been a different, like a FCI or something, but you're every car wants numbers, and at least the people that I ran into at that time were of the mentality of make a homie instead of break a homie, and because I'm definitely not the first white guy to ever run in the Mexican gang.
Oh, I mean, for sure. What gang was it though out of New Mexico? I know you rode with the
Well,
South.
but it was at that time it was just a car, it was just New Mexico. It was a car.
So you do your 41 months, you get out of jail, right?
Yes.
So when you get out of jail, man, what's life like? You gonna change your life? Are you back on the street? You back
Well,
involved?
yeah, that was the plan. What only jobs I ever had was cooking in restaurants. So when I started getting close to going home, I started thinking about what am I going to do when I get out? Am I going to, So I started studying cookbooks. I got a job in the kitchen as a cook, and that was a plan. But when I got to the halfway house, it was a different story. I'm easily influenced by my surroundings. So soon I got to the halfway house, there's like 5 people there that I just started hanging around with, and before I did get a cook job at the halfway house, but it was at a truck stop, at a diner at a truck stop on the graveyard shift. And if anybody knows on what goes on late nights at truck stops, that's a lot of lot lizards and truckers that like to keep those lot lizards happy. So it's easy to sell drugs. Crack at that time was what was the thing, and I had access to it. So that's what I started doing. As soon as before I even got out of the halfway house, I was in the dope game before, and I only had 60 days to do.
So you're back in the dope game. You end up catching another Fed case, right?
Well, no. What ended up happening was a week after I got out of the halfway house, I went on the run. And while on the run, I just was up to the same old tricks, and I got away with a lot of bullshit. And I ended up getting caught for robbing a grocery store. And I ended up going to the state after that.
So you rob a grocery store. How much time did they give you in the state?
They gave me 3 years. Well, no, 4 years. They gave me a 4-year habitual.
What's that
New
mean?
Mexico has they have a habitual offender enhancement, and if you have enough priors, the first one is they call it a 1-year bitch, the second one's a 4-year bitch, and the third one's an 8-year bitch. So being that I had the bank robbery, I qualified for the 4-year bitch. I didn't use a gun, so it wasn't considered a violent crime in the state. So I end up getting 4 years and doing half of it.
What's that prison system like? I know that you got that book, The Butcher Shop, about the riots in New Mexico. What's that prison system like over there?
Well, this was in 2004. At that time, like all the gang members in the system got locked up. They were in the supermax level. They started a level system in New Mexico. So it was, I mean, it was private prisons. I went to a private prison, and it was like kind of like doing county time with the TV in your cell, with some little few perks of prison, but it wasn't wasn't the same as the feds.
So a little more laid back, or no?
No, it was kind of rowdy. It was kind of rowdy.
What car, what group, what gang ran that place? Just curious.
At I no, I don't really want to get into the gang situation because I don't want to. I don't want to offend nobody, So I don't really like. If we could not talk about. For those who know the New Mexico prison system, they know what gangs are there. So I'd rather not discuss
No,
the gangs.
no problem. Violence over there, or is it
Yeah,
just
absolutely,
fights?
absolutely. It's a prison. At I was only there for like 18 months, so probably I saw a couple of I saw some guy whack a cop with a a, a pill bottle full of batteries inside of a sock.
What did the cop do when he gets whacked?
Laid him out. He got laid out. He got lifted up off his feet and landed on his back, knocked out. And his partner tried to help him, and the guy just started smashing his partner because his partner was really small. And he made it out of the unit. His partner made it out of the. It's like the units are. I don't know if you've ever seen those private prisons and how the units are. So he ran to the door and he got out of there and left his partner in there, knocked out. So the guy he got on his radio, and I wasn't in that unit. I was in the unit across, and I was watching it through the door, the windows in the door. And they gassed the unit, and he was through the gas. Everybody else went in their cells, and everybody in my unit was at the door, pounding on the door, all yelling and rowdy, and got our unit gassed. Not me. I was up at the top tier trying to, because I knew that what's going to happen. They're going to throw them canisters in there. And
Let's
sure
talk
enough,
about that, right? Because I don't see a lot of people talking about when they bomb the unit, or when they throw them canisters in there, or when you can't breathe. What's it like, when the cops come into a unit and throw them canisters and you can't breathe?
it's like, I don't know, kind of like that gas kind of takes the oxygen out of the air, so you start burning your eyes, you try to get as far away as you can, so and cover up your face. And
So it's burning, you can't breathe. You're like, damn. You try. Everybody always knows how to, Oh, I'll tell you what to do. Put a wet towel under the door. None of that shit works, man.
No, you got to just wait it out. You got to just try to stay calm, because I really believe those things are meant to, the harder you breathe, the harder it is to breathe. So if you start to panic, and it kind of like opens up your pores, and your body will absorb it. If you kind of just relax, it's gonna go away. Kind of
That's
just
one of
gotta
it's
wait
one of
it
the
out.
worst things. That's one of the worst things about prison, man. You're not involved in the shit. They come down there, they gas the range, they gas someone's cell, and now you can't breathe. You feel like you're fucking dying in there, right?
Yep.
So you end up doing that little 18 months, man. You go home. What's your life like when you hit the streets this time?
Just same shit, man. Same thing. I get out and actually when I got out, I did good for about 4 months, and same thing. Trying to make ends meet. I always thought I could grab a sack and do a little side hustle, but I'm a drug addict, so drugs don't I don't do good around drugs. I'll do good for a little while, and then I'll drink, get drunk, and then I start wanting to get high, and before you know it, I'm hanging around with people, everybody that's in that life, and then I'm on parole, so dirty, so I'm going on the run. And that's what happened. I went on the run and
You go on the
ended
run.
up.
Do you catch another case or no?
Well, no, actually, yeah, but it was a possession charge that. Okay, so I had federal probation and state parole, and when I get caught, I got caught with a little tiny bit of heroin, and state parole takes, when you're on parole, that takes precedence over everything. When you get arrested and you go to the county and state parole has a hold of you, you're gonna go back in front of the parole board, because you're still considered part of, you belong to the state prison system, so you have to go see the parole board. So that's the first thing you do, and within 2 weeks you're back in prison. So I had 18 months to do. I did another 18 months on my parole, but I have this new case pending. Well, during the time that I was in that case was pending, they kind of messed up. So they end up. I'm sure what a noli prosequi is, because you're familiar with the law. But that's when in our state, I don't know if they still do it, but they used to like to do it a lot because the courts are overcrowded. They can nolly the charge for up to a year without indicting you. So they do it just to buy time, especially if you're in custody. I was in custody. I was I had to do 18 months regardless. So during that time, the feds put a detainer on me for violating my supervised release. I had 3 years supervised release. Well, with that new charge, they end up indicting me on it. And when they indicted me, they were supposed to pick me up and take me back to the county where I picked up the charge and arraigned me. But instead of doing that, they put a warrant out for my arrest. Before they indicted me, they sent a target letter saying that I was a target of a grand jury investigation. So now I have proof that they know where I'm at. So I finished my parole, and the county comes and picks me up on this warrant for this possession charge. Well, I had already talked to, a jailhouse lawyer who told me that and showed me in the criminal procedure book of that they have violated my right to a speedy trial. So as soon as I got to the county, I filed that. I filed a motion to dismiss on the grounds that, because if they would arraign me within 15 days of the indictment like they were supposed to, then I could have pleaded out on the case or whatever, and got the charges run concurrent, or at least started doing the time, got sentenced. But instead, I did a whole nother year with that charge with the warrant. So they didn't violate my rights by not arraigning me within the 15 days, but they violated my right to a speedy trial by not taking me to trial within 6 months of indicting me, knowing where I was at.
I want to
So I ended
talk
up getting
about.
the case. I got the case dismissed.
I want to talk about you going back to the feds. You ended up going back to the feds. You just got out about a year ago, right?
Yes. So I don't know how to explain things without taking you down the full road. So you gotta cut me off when I start to stray. So anyways, I was on federal probation, but when I got that dismissed, the state never sent my federal detainer to the county with the county that when they picked me up on that new charge. So I get released or no warrants, no the marshals had a detainer on me, but they thought I was still in state prison. They forgot about me. They're waiting, they're just gonna wait for the state to tell them to come pick me up, But I went to the county and got dismissed from the county. So I stood out for about 3 years when I was supposed to go in front of a judge for violating my supervised release for that, that other charge for
So,
picking up
so
the possession. And
let me stop you. So you don't catch a new charge. You just got a violation.
yes. So now when I was out for these 3 years, what I end up doing is I end up robbing another bank. In 2010, I robbed another bank and I got caught right after. So now I'm facing a lot of time. My public defender tells me that I'm exposed to this 3 strikes enhancement that the feds have, and which is a mandatory life. And not only does she tell me, she tells the prosecutor as well. she said because of my first bank robbery, they said in order to get you with this 3 strikes, they have to have 2 prior severely violent felonies or serious drug offenses and an instant, either or. So what is a severely violent felony? Well, robbery is one of them. So I had 2 robberies and now another one. So she said I'm exposed to this 3 strikes enhancement. Well, the prosecutor was going to draw up a plea and he asked her if we wanted to add anything, and that's what she told him. Well, just we don't want any enhancements. And he's like, what are you talking about? Enhancements? What enhancements? And he says, well, he is exposed to 3 strikes. Oh, really? Well, hold on, let me look into this. So she says the more time goes by, the better, Well, during this time, he comes back and he tells her to go talk to me. That he says we don't want to give him the 3 strikes, but see how much he'd be willing to sign an 11C1C is for. 11C1C is a plea that something that you and the government agree on a certain amount of time, and that's what if the judge accepts that plea, then that's so that's what you get. So I know at the time I've never used a gun on any of these robberies. I've never put anybody's life in jeopardy. Now, granted, I do take responsibility, and I know that I scared these tellers, and I may have damaged some of these people's psyches for life. Some of these ladies in these banks, because the notes that I wrote were threatening their lives, and they don't know that I don't really have a gun. So I'm not saying that it wasn't. I understand why they consider it violent, but really the potential for violence is not there. if they didn't give me the money, what I'm gonna walk out. You know, there's nothing I could do. I don't have a gun, but they don't know that. So that's why they consider it violent. So, anyways, he says we don't want to, you know, but don't come back with anything near a decade. Well, I know they got the career offender, you know, and that well, that carries that at that time was 151 to 188 months. So I'm like that, you know, that's what I feel I had coming. You know, with it, not no, I don't have a life sentence coming. I never believed that I have a life sentence coming, but so they, and I guess they didn't think I did either, but they wanted to sure give me a lot more than that career offender.
So what do they
Because
end
she
up
told
giving?
them,
What do you get sentenced to?
she told them that I'll be willing to sign for 15, and they shot it down. They shot it down. They said we don't have a counter offer at the time, but we'll get back to you. Well, during this time, some guy robs a bank. He goes on a high-speed chase and wrecks into a car and kills 2 ladies. There's all kinds of bank robberies going on in Albuquerque at this time, and they want to break everybody out. They want to make an example out of me now. So they end up giving me a new prosecutor. They assign a new prosecutor to my case, and my lawyer comes back and says they changed their mind. They said they're not this new prosecutor says his supervisors gave him the case and it's an ongoing 3 strikes case, and they're not authorizing any plea agreements. So I don't know, Chad, if they did that to scare me of this, but I don't think so. You know, I really think they were really determined to give me that enhancement. And the only reason I didn't get it was because right before trial, that's what they said. They're not authorizing any pleas. The case is going to trial. So my lawyer says my only hope to try to save you is to file any frivolous motion I can think of to get you in the courtroom to try and pressure the prosecutor into offering you a plea. So she files a motion to suppress evidence on the way I got pulled over, saying they made a full felony stop without any traffic violation, but they had a bolo for the vehicle. So it was, I know that motion's not going to go anywhere. She knows it too. She's just trying to get in the courtroom so she can talk to the prosecutor about my case again and say, you know, try to get, well, instead of seeing the motion, just, she said, so I suggest if they offer you 25, 30 years, you take it. And I would have took it if they would have offered it, but they didn't offer it. So she says, look, one of the attorneys in my office gave me a heads up about your case and about this 3 strikes enhancement. In order to give you that enhancement, they need to file a notice of intent, which is a 5-minute filing. It's electronic filing. It takes 5 minutes, but as of 9 o'clock this morning, they haven't done it. I'm assuming that this new prosecutor assumed the original prosecutor had already done it because it was an ongoing case, but that original prosecutor wasn't trying to give me that, so they never filed that notice of intent. Without that notice of intent with the conviction, the judge is not binded by that enhancement. I mean, he could give you whatever he wants, but if that notice is filed and there's a conviction, then he has no choice. It's a mandatory life. He has to give it to you. So she said, if you plead guilty to the court right now and the judge accepts your guilty plea, then he's not binded by that life.
They never filed their notice. So you kind of got them. You're going to go in there, plead guilty, you got them because there's no notice filed.
Exactly. So I pled guilty. The prosecutor tried to stop it. He said, Your Honor, we believe the victim in the case should have some say-so about the amount of time this man gets, which is the bank teller, you know. He's like, oh, he almost paused. He says, I didn't think of that. And my lawyer stepped up and said, well, yeah, the victim has their say-so that goes on during sentencing. This is not sentencing. So he said, you're right. So he took the plea, and now that's a conviction. They're not binded by that enhancement. I never heard a word about it again. And I ended up getting a career offender enhancement, and I got 173 months.
173 months. So now that you get that 173 months, what's that feel like to get that kind of time, man?
It was a it was a relief, man. You know, I went a whole year with the life sentence on my back. You know, with really honestly believing that I was going to get this. My lawyer had me believe that there was nothing she could do, that I was going to get life. So to get 14 and a half years and know I'm coming home was a relief. But still, that's a lot of time.
So
Still, that's a lot of time.
now you get all that time. You end up going to the SMU a couple times too. What's your first prison after you get sentenced on this new case?
USP Florence.
USP Florence, rocking at that time. Were you down there for the riots?
You're talking about the 420 riot?
Yeah.
No, that was in 08. I got there in 2011. So that had already, that was still like the talk of the town.
So now, what prison did you say you're at now? You're at Florence, right?
Yeah, I was at Florence. They end up within the first year of being there, they end up shutting it down. They already had a couple units there that they were using as level 3 and 4 SMU, and they end up making Florence a SMU program completely, and they shot most of the people there to USP Beaumont, what they call Bloody Beaumont. And if you're familiar, which I know you are, with the story of that penitentiary was turned into a medium in 2007. So it was a medium for 5 years, and they decided to, and the reason was because of the stuff that was happening there, the stuff that happened in the shoe with old Snuff and,
Yeah.
all that stuff. So now when we get there, it's transitioning from a medium back to a high. So when we first got there, it was like real petty. That place, you couldn't even walk on the top tier without getting flagged down by you couldn't stand on any top tier without the CO chasing you down and tell you to keep moving, to get off the tier. They didn't want anybody standing or sitting on the top tiers. They would pat you down all the time everywhere you went. It was just like real petty. And after the first year of being there, the administration changed the SIS and stuff. I was there for about 3 years, but I ended up, catching a lot of 3-4 knife shots, syringes, dirty. End up going to the SMU for a big old banger. I actually had 2 of them on me. I got patted down, and I ran and got rid of one because they were charging people with them, but they sent me to the SMU. Back at that time, Lewisburg was an 18-month program.
Let's talk a little bit about the syringes and people getting high in prison. I mean, you get caught with syringes, you were getting high in prison?
Yeah.
Can't get away from it. Can't get away from the addiction, right?
Well, no, I mean, it's worse in prison than it is on the street.
When you talk about syringes, are they real syringes? Are they the binkies that they make with the milk bag? I mean, what type of syringes are they?
No, they don't use the milk bag. They use somebody will get the point off of one. There's diabetics in there, and they got, some people get a hold of real syringes from medical, because there's diabetics that take insulin, but some of those guys that take insulin will clip the needle off and get away with it and sell them on the yard, and they build one out of a pen, out of a clear pen, and put a piece of rubber on the end to use as like a eyedropper type of deal, and homemade syringes.
What does a syringe go for in prison?
It depends. You've seen them go all the way up to $100 and all the way down to $10. It just depends on how many there are at the time. How, supply and demand.
Hard to get sometimes in there, right?
Just like anything else. Yep.
So let me ask you this: are dudes sharing needles over there?
Absolutely.
You ever have any fear, like, damn, bro, I probably shouldn't be, sharing a syringe with this cat?
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, not really like with a certain person because I kept my circle real tight, but you don't really know who they're sharing with and stuff like that. We'll always try to get some bleach, but that's not always possible. And we'll use disinfectant and stuff like that. But still, it's not safe. But drug addicts are they, when you're in full blown addiction, there's nothing gonna stop you from.
I understand that, man. Let me ask you this, right?
The
You're over
addiction's
there.
stronger than the fear of whatever.
The addiction's stronger than the fear of dying or catching HIV.
Mm-hmm.
So you're over there at Beaumont. You've been some dangerous places. You got this 14-year sentence. You get caught with a banger. Are you involved in any personal violence yourself at all in prison?
Yeah, I got involved in a couple of things.
When you talk about a couple of things, because look, man, like I said, there's young dudes watching this show, right? Some people think prison, man, you go to prison, you come home, you're a tough guy. Some dudes don't make it out. So you end up having these incidents in prison, but what are they? What are they over?
Yeah, I thought I was a tough guy too, but I don't know what happened, to change me. Something happened before, I guess you could say they finally broke me. That smooth program and that 4 years I did in Hazleton, where I ended up, got out of, and all the things that happened in my life at that time changed me. And I can't say it was one specific thing or where the change actually happened, but I'm not the same person. I don't think the same. I don't talk the same. That person stood back there. I never, all that time, a lot of people ruin their careers. They check in, stuff like that. I never did that. I never told on anybody. But I left that life behind. I can't do another, I can't do a life. And that's what I got coming if I go back.
100%. Let me ask you this, though, because you ended up in the SMU. You said you had a couple incidents. You ever have to put that knife in someone in there?
Yeah.
And what's that like, man? Because it seems like prison affected you. I can tell, bro, from the way that you talk, the way that you move. We've all been affected. I'm going through something right now, something personal, man, where prison has affected me and stopped me, from being the person that I really want to be. You know what I mean? So, when you have to go on a mission like that, bro, what goes through your mind? Do you think about catching a life sentence because you were at Hazleton, Whitey Bulger gets killed over there? You ever thinking in your mind like, damn, bro, I might fuck my whole life off right here over, some petty shit most of the time?
Yeah. Absolutely. But there was a time when, at this time, like around the time before I went to the SMU the first time, and before I didn't really care. I was wrapped up in that life, and that's what I was living. And it, like that stuff. That's why it's scary, because all that shit became normal, Chad. To stab somebody, to most people, it'd be like something horrific, like they could never, and I could never imagine doing it now. But at that time, that was like norm. If you didn't do it, then you were not
I
what
feel
you're
you, man.
portraying yourself to be.
I feel you. We become, desensitized to violence, and like it just doesn't mean anything, right? Unfortunately, man, that human beings can get to a point in their life where it doesn't mean anything. So let me ask you this: the dude that I know you're kind of reluctant to talk about it a lot, but why did you have to stab this dude? Was it something petty? Keep it real. There's young dudes watching that need to hear it.
Okay, I was in the shoe in Victorville. See, after I went to there's a lot of missing pieces to this whole puzzle that I haven't talked about, and because I told you I'm not going to talk about any gang shit, gang affiliations and stuff like that. But so there's things that I really can't say because I don't want to offend anybody else. But basically, I was in the hole in Victorville, and you know who we run with and who they represent, and what is like the big guys, and there's some of those there, and unbeknownst to me, my cellie ends up stealing something from somebody important, and when you're in a cell like that, we're supposed to be programming from morning till night. We're up, whether we're in the shoe, on the yard, whatever. And that's something serious. So if your cellie does something, you might as well you did it too, because if you're going to allow something like that to happen, then you're just as guilty as he is. But I didn't see it. I didn't see it. I was high, and I was nodded out on the top bunk with my earphones on. He used to be fishing on the door all the time. And something came up missing, and I didn't see him take it. But everybody knows it had to be him. So I was not gonna take the hit for him. I wasn't the only one that got involved, but we end up getting whacked in the rec cage.
Bad things happen sometimes. The SMOO program, what's it like to be locked in a cell like that with another man?
I went straight back to the SMOO.
What's it like to, the special management unit? You're locked in a cell, you're in this program. I mean, the restrictions are unbelievable. It's destroying people mentally and emotionally. You end up in the SMOO twice. What's it like, man? What's it like to be in the SMOO?
Well, the thing is, it always depends on who you're in the cell with. That's it, because that's your life. Your life is in that bathroom. You're locked in the bathroom for fucking months and months. The first time was 18 months. From when I got locked up in Beaumont, I did 6 months in the shoe in Beaumont before I went to the SMOO. SMOO was 18 months at that time. I get out of there, and I get sent to a yard that we don't walk. They sent me to Coleman 1. At that time was a northern yard. And we that I know of don't have any issues with them, but being who we run with, they did not let me out. And I tried to get out. I tried to go out. I had people on the yard asking for me, and even went and got with the northerners and had them go to SIS, and all that did was prolong my stay back there. Because they said we're looking into letting you out, but I stood back there for like 3 months, and they ended up shipping me to Victorville. Well, in Victorville, I got into it with my group, with my state. There's two factions, and in some yards we walk together, some yards we don't. And Victorville, we didn't, and I became the fucking victim as soon as I got there. And the thing is, in Beaumont, we walk together.
Let me stop you. You become the victim when you get there. What happens to you?
I got jumped in the chow hall.
Are you stabbed or just jumped up?
No. They just jumped me. That's why I didn't really want to get into all this, because everything's like perception, and my perception of that thing is really like sissified. That to do shit like that is. But on the same token, when I look and put myself into their shoes, I understand why they do it. It's because it's a collective wrong. It's not one individual. You know what I'm saying? So it's a collective mentality that people are taught and indoctrinated with people to be your enemies because of what? You know, you're even the same person. We're much stronger together than we are apart.
But
Just because of
this is
who
the
you
thing,
want to.
kid. This is the thing, right? This is the reality of prison, right? Dudes jump on you like, damn, bro, that was some bullshit, man. You didn't have to do that. We run around killing each other, right? And letting the cops do whatever the fuck they want to do to us. Instead of fighting the system, we're
Absolutely.
fighting each other. That's why we never win.
Yep.
So I know there's a lot of things that you don't really want to talk about. And hey, man, I understand, I respect it, but I do believe that prison affected you, bro, just from talking to you.
Big time.
Do you feel like prison affected you?
Big time. I have just this having this doing this interview as things that I haven't talked about in a couple years. I've been out for a couple years already, and having to relive all that is not something I like to do, man. You know, like I said, I left that guy behind the walls, so I'm not that same person. So to go back and try to make sense of it, and I don't really, I have a fear of that person coming back.
What hurt you the most, bro? What hurt you the most? Was it sitting in the smooth for 18 months locked in a bathroom? Did that hurt you the most?
You get used to that. You know, you get used to that. You get like you say, you get desensitized to all that shit, you know, and it's like just what hurts, because you become to where you're in that life, nothing hurts. You put up a wall that nothing can get to you. But what hurt me, Chad, is I lost my whole family. Everybody died while I was locked up. You know, and so that's what affected me, because I didn't, my parents are gone, man, and a lot of things that I don't even want to get into, but and it's a lot of personal shit, you know. So, and it all because of the choices I've made, you know.
Let me ask you this. You said your parents passed away. They both passed away while you were in prison?
Yeah.
You know, there's some people out here, man, you know, a lot of times dudes that end up in prison, they come from single mother households, right? What's it like to get a phone call to the chaplain's office, man, and they tell you, look, man, we're sorry, but your mother passed away?
Okay. Well, let me tell you. First, this was going on during COVID. With my dad found out he had cancer, and my mom and dad split up when I was 10 years old, you know, and I grew up with my mom, but I still was close with my dad. And my dad always looked out for me when I was locked up. You know, he wouldn't send me a lot, but he would make sure I always have at least $50 a month or something. You know, I always stood in touch with my dad. Well, when he told me that he had cancer and decided to not fight it, that was just here. And this is during COVID. We're locked down. You know, they don't let us in Hazleton. For the whole 2020, we came out of our cells for like 30 minutes a day, 5 cells at a time. So it was having to hear my dad deteriorate over the phone was hard, man. To hear him just, you know, he stood at home on morphine, you know, with the hospice till he died. And when he died, I didn't get a call. I didn't get called to the chaplain's office. My sister called the prison, and the day that she called, the chaplain wasn't there, so they never notified me. I found out it through an email from my sister that my dad passed away. So then when my mom died, that's the one that fucked me up, because I was close with my mom, you know, and I expected my mom to, you know, I thought for sure she was gonna make it till I got out, and she was raising my son, Chad. I had a 1-year-old baby when I got locked up that stayed with my mom the whole time. And she put everything, all she was about was her grandson. So I end up I end up going to the shoe in Hazleton, and in the shoe you only get a call once a month. But that time you get 2 calls a month because of the COVID. They were giving people 2 calls a month. So on April 1st of 2021, I called, and she didn't answer. Oh, back up, March 1st, I talked to her. Everything was cool. Everything was the same. You know, they wouldn't leave the house. Her and my son had been in the house for a year. You know, they were living in a small town in New Mexico, Elephant Butte, and they would order their groceries from Walmart, get in the car, go pick up their groceries, and go back home. Then order everything off of Amazon. Well, when I called on April 1st, no answer. So the next, long story short, I called my sister, and mind you, she's my half sister from my dad. She's not my mom's daughter. She's just my, so she doesn't really, she knows my mom, but she doesn't talk to my mom. She doesn't, they don't even live in the same town. She couldn't even go and check on my mom. But I asked her, please, will you find out what's going on and write to me? Because I don't want to be sitting here and for a whole other month till I get the phone to find out what's up with what happened. Well, the next day the chaplain comes, they come to the cell and tell me to cuff up. They don't say for what, but I know for what. I knew what it was immediately. And as soon as they pulled me out, they told me chaplain wanted to talk to me, so I knew. And chaplain wouldn't even give me a call, man. You're supposed to give me a call. But being that I used my 2 phone calls that you're allowed for the month, he said he couldn't give me a call because he had to give me a call over the inmate telephone system, and it wouldn't work. It wouldn't accept my call because it said you have no minutes. I had no calls left. He didn't have to. There's a phone right there. We're sitting in the lieutenant's office. Chad, he could give me a call on that freaking speaker phone right there. He can monitor the call. They don't need it to be over the inmate. But if he, for whatever reason, that prison is heartless, so he wouldn't allow me to call. He said, I'll come back on Monday, because it was a Friday. He said, I'll come back on Monday and get it with the ITS and get them to give you a call. It's already too late in the day. It was like 2 p.m. They had known about it since the morning, He never came back. I never got a call.
The whole system's full of scumbags, but that's the thing that people don't realize. You love your mom. You could be in prison, man, and your mother passes away, hits you in the heart, and you can't even call home to get a little bit of comfort from your sister or a friend or just anybody, any other family member. These people are scumbags, and they'll always be scumbags. So staying out of prison is probably, our best bet. Let me ask you this, right? What's going to keep you out of prison?
Like I said, I'm not the same person. I don't, honestly, my savior probably right now is Suboxone. Them allowing me to take Suboxone because I have no cravings for any type of drugs or alcohol. I haven't drank a beer. I haven't even wanted to drink a beer since I've been on. And now if I wasn't on Suboxone, would I be the same? I don't know, but I'm scared to find out.
Are you taking care of your son?
That's a whole other issue. So the plan was to get my son and get us a place. Okay. It's something that I can't explain in a couple of minutes, but he ended up in a children's psychiatric hospital. because his mom is in the street life still, you know, and that's who got custody. As soon as my mom died, custody reverted right back to his mom.
Yeah.
So they called her to come get him, and she took him to her mom's. And I don't really know the whole story because nobody will be straight up with me. So I don't want to say too much because it's all assumption.
I don't want you.
But
Yeah, listen, I don't want you to get into
when
that.
I saw my son does, the reason my son's not with me is because he doesn't want to be with me. And so that's something that I have to deal with and figure out, man, you know?
Well, listen, man, I see that prison affected you, man. You've been through a lot of stuff. I want to see you do the right thing. Are you working right now?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm working.
What kind of work you doing?
I'm an apprentice electrician. I'm working and I'm going to school.
That's what's up, man. And listen, man, I want to see you, stay on that right track. Keep doing the right thing, bro, and stay free. How old are you now, kid?
I'm 51.
51. Lost some of the best years of your life to prison, right?
Yep. I lost all my life to prison.
A lot of it, right? Is that your biggest
Yeah.
regret? Your biggest regret in life at 51 years old? Talk about it, man. Talk about it.
Picking up that needle, man. Picking up that needle.
Picking up that needle. But listen, man.
That's
Like
what
I
started
said,
it all.
Before we get ready to go, anything you want to say, man?
Man, there's a lot that I want to say, but I can't. I mean, I could sit here and talk, would need a therapy session, you know. and I actually did have a little bit of therapy when I first got out, but that's over with. So, it's like all that stuff is in the rear view, and I just don't look at it, you know. This is the first time I've looked at it, so it's been this whole time we've been talking has been it's been hard for me, you know, to revisit all that stuff. Uncomfortable, I'm sure you could tell. It's not even myself, because having to explain, like, because there's things that I want to tell you that I just won't, because I don't want to put myself in a position to say things that I shouldn't, that involve other people, and other people get offended, and because I'm out of that life, you know. And those who want to stay in it, all more power to them. There's a couple people in there that I put money on their books sometimes, you know, but I don't write to them. I don't contact them. I don't nothing. Still on probation. I don't do anything to violate my probation, because I'm not going back.
No doubt. Well, listen, man, again, I appreciate you coming on, sharing your story, sharing your experiences. My advice to you, brother, is, man, maybe you need some counseling. Maybe you need someone to talk to. It helps, bro. So I would probably seek some of that out. You ever need me, you got my phone number now. You know how to get in contact with me, man. I'm always here, man. You can hit me up, all right?
Okay. I just want to say, I hope the things I said helped out your show, because that's why I did it. I did it to try to turn all that negative into something positive. I don't know if it did, but that's my only reason for coming on here, to try to help out the cause that you're going after, to help the youth try to steer clear and not have to go through that. That federal system is messed up, man. I don't know about the mediums, and I've never saw it. I never saw that, but the USPs, that place is a dead end road, man. Think I'd rather just die than to go live that again. You know, to go through that again.
I'm gonna tell you this,
To
bro.
wake up in one of those cells, in that environment, in that life, another day, I won't do it.
You know what? I'm gonna tell you something that I probably never ever said publicly, man. I agree, bro. I don't never want to go back to prison. And the number one way to not go back to prison is stay all the way out of the way, man, and live your best life. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate you coming on, bro. I know prison affected you. I'm gonna tell people, man, this is the reality. Maybe your story, about losing your mom, not being able to get a phone call. Maybe that'll wake someone up, man. Maybe someone will say, you know what, man, I don't want to live this life. So anyway, man, I appreciate you. I'm gonna tell people, if you like what we're doing, hit that like button with respect. Blow Down the Razor Wire TV. Until tomorrow, you already know we're out.